Hello, I'm Corinne Worsley and welcome to the Live on Purpose show. So, in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about probably one of the questions that I get asked the most, which is how do you know what your life purpose is? Just a small question for today's episode then. And I'm going to be sharing my take on this because this is a journey that I have been on, still am on, for many years now, and it's the niggle that I had that really kicked off my whole journey into self-exploration and trying to figure out what I was actually here for. So, if you have been drawn to this episode, the likelihood is that you have that niggle, that little question in your mind which is saying, what am I actually here for? And am I following that path? Am I living the life that I was put here for? I don't know if there are many people who make it through their entire lives without asking themselves that question. And it comes to each of us at different points in our evolution. So for me, the niggle really hit, I would say, late 20s, early 30s. I was maybe an early life crisis, a kind of quarter life crisis. And that's when I really started to question what I was here for and whether I was actually pursuing that path. And initially, as I imagine many people experience, I thought it was all about the work that I was here to do. And in some respects, yes, our work is a huge part of our purpose and our mission here on earth. But it's not the whole shebang, it is not the entire picture. And so today I want to share with you some ideas, some things that you could start to explore that will help you to navigate this thing called life purpose and to figure out what it is that you have been put here for. And maybe that's the best place for us to start. I believe that each and every one of us was put here with a purpose. As I've heard Gina DeVee say, God does not make extra humans. And whether you want to call it God, universe, goddess, spirit in the sky, whatever you call that bigger power that I believe exists, the chances of you incarnating in the first place are infinitesimally small. Can't remember the exact figures, but really the chances of that particular sperm meeting that particular egg and making it into being are just so small that for me at least that indicates that none of us are here by accident. We each have a purpose in this life, no matter what shape, size, colour we have incarnated as. We each have a purpose for being here in this lifetime. And then our task really is to align with that purpose. And there are a few things that I believe help us to know when we are and when we are not aligned with that particular purpose. And the first one of those things is, for me, feeling. How do you feel? And you might be thinking, that sounds a little bit of a wishy-washy way to identify whether I'm aligned with my purpose. But what I have found in my own experience, in my own life, is that there are certain feelings that feel good. There are certain times when I feel really good. And those times and those feelings are clues that I am living in alignment with my purpose. And it's not just about feeling good, it's about being in a really good place mentally, physically, emotionally. It's when we can say that we're firing on all cylinders, that every aspect of our lives is kind of working in harmony, that's when we know that we've hit that sweet spot and we are living in alignment with our purpose. So if I come back to feeling, what do I mean by feeling? So for me, I feel most lit up when I have a feeling of excitement in my belly, when I'm excited about what I'm getting up to do each day. And I'm sure you've experienced it. Maybe going to an event, or you're going on holiday, or there's something that gives you that little buzz of excitement. Well, for me, I need that buzz of excitement more often than not, like 80% of the time, I would say. You might have a different target feeling that enables you to know that you are aligned with your purpose. Maybe it's more along the lines of peace for you, that you know, okay, I have a feeling of peace. That tells me that I'm in alignment with my purpose. And then what we can do when we recognize that that feeling, or there could be many feelings, maybe I would add joy in there as well. Joy, excitement, these kind of high energy feelings are the ones that really do it for me. And when we know what those feelings are, then we are able to look at our lives and look at the things that we have going on and the people in them and the work that we're doing and the way that we're taking care of ourselves, and recognize, okay, the things that don't feel good are the things that are not aligned with who I truly am. And I will caveat here by saying sometimes we don't always feel like doing the things that are actually going to make us feel good. And so it's not to kind of throw out everything. And I'm talking mostly here about, say, exercise or eating the right foods. Sometimes we might not always stay completely on track with those things because we allow our inner child, so to speak, to run the show and to let us eat whatever we want and to not exercise. But ultimately, those kinds of things are more, they're longer term activities that lead to our happiness and well-being. So for me, for instance, I know that eating a really, really clean diet and also exercising regularly, moving my body multiple times a day, even if sometimes I think, oh, I don't want to do this workout, actually I know that it's in service to my greater well-being, and that once I'm partway through it and once I've finished, I feel so good that I can recognize, okay, yes, this is part of me living as the fullest expression of who I am, as being able to bring the best me to everything I do in life. So that's just one small caveat around feelings. We can't always trust in, I don't feel like doing it. In instances like that, we can sometimes when it comes to, for instance, if you are working at a job or working in a company where every single day you dread going in, then that is not something to push through. That is not something to say, I've just got to suck it up and get on with it because it's good for me. No, ultimately that is not good for you. So get in touch with, when in life do I feel good? What makes me feel good? What brings me those feel good feelings? And equally, when do I not feel so good? What really brings me down? What drains my energy? And these are clues. Again, if we think about, there's a guy called Gay Hendricks who's written a book called The Big Leap, which I would highly recommend. And he talks about being in our zone of genius. And this zone of genius is where we feel energized by what we are doing and not tired out by it. And that is really, really key when we talk about finding your purpose and living on purpose. If we're not feeling energized by what we're doing, then we're not in alignment with our purpose. And so start to recognize these clues. Start to recognize when you are energized and when your energy is being drained, and maybe even start to keep track of it, keep a log of these things that that lift you up, that energize you, the things that drain you, the people that drain you, and what is it about them? Start to get a bit Miss Marple, get a bit Poirot on these things, and start to dig deeper and think about, okay, what is it about those things that really excites me? And you can start to maybe dig deeper into the things, the elements behind the things that excite you. So, for instance, I will always go back to one of my most memorable experiences was going to the 2012 Olympics. I was so excited about that. I not only in, I think, 2005, when they announced that we would be getting the Olympics in London, I decreed, I am getting tickets and I am going, even though at that time I lived in the north of England, had no clue I would end up living in the south and be so close to just be able to hop on the tube and go to these events. But I declared, I am going to the Olympics. I set that intention, and then it happened. I got myself tickets, and I was so excited actually be there, to go to the Olympic Stadium, to be a part of that experience. And if I dig a little bit deeper underneath, where does that excitement come from? The excitement there is connected to really loving seeing people at the peak of their abilities, performing, marveling at people who have overcome battles, who have cultivated themselves to be the best that they can possibly be and are achieving almost superhuman feats. And that is something that really inspires and drives me and motivates me. And that's then a clue that that is part of my own purpose. My own purpose is to do that in myself, to find the best of me, to figure out the best that I can do, to achieve the best that I can in whatever I'm doing in life, and then to inspire that in others, and to bring that hope and that and light up that desire in other people and let them know that it's possible for them too. It's not just these superhumans that can achieve great things. We all can achieve great things. Maybe not, I'm never going to run 400 meters at a world record pace, but I can transfer that desire for excellence across into other areas of my life, such as my business, such as my own personal fitness, such as my wealth in life. It can transfer into so many different things. So have a think about, okay, when do I feel most myself, most lit up, whatever the feeling is for you, and what's behind that? What are the components of the things that make me feel that way? And then, am I living those things? Am I making sure that those things are a part of my everyday life and of how I am being? And I guess this leads me on to something that I think really encapsulates what our purpose here is in life, and that is to live as the fullest expression of who we are. And that then gives us way more scope than just the work that we do. It's about who we're being. It's about how we're showing up in every single walk of life. It's about aligning with the things that bring us joy, with the people that bring us joy. It's about being true to who we are and not being people pleasers, and living our lives primarily for us. And that might sound a little bit controversial, but you need to be at the center of your life, and you need to be your number one concern and your happiness, not other people's. Because when you are operating at your best, then you are going to be able to bring your best to other people, and that is when you are going to add most value to the lives of other people and to the work that you're doing. If I think about my well-being journey, when I have been operating in a place of just tip-top well-being, when I've been eating in a way that suits my body, working out, dancing, horse riding, doing Pilates, when I have felt energized, I used to, not quite back there yet, but I used to bounce out of bed at 5 a.m. because I was so full of energy. And that meant that I then brought that energy to the work that I was doing, and I was excellent at the work that I was doing at the time, even though it wasn't completely my purpose. But maybe we'll talk about that shortly. I then was attracted to somebody and started a relationship, and I was just loving everything that I was doing in life. I was really enjoying my life, and a huge part of that was because I had cultivated the health and the well-being that enabled me to bring the best version of me forward. And again, this is going to look different for everybody, but it's a huge part of living your purpose and finding your purpose. Really, we can't do it from a place of burnout, a place of just being completely unhealthy, because we need to be firing on all cylinders in order to really be living on purpose. I don't believe any of us really can live fully on purpose unless we are taking good care of ourselves, because it has so many knock-on effects when it comes to our confidence, when it comes to our thought patterns, when it comes to how likely we are to take on something in life, to take on challenges. So really taking great care of yourself is key to living as the fullest expression of who you are. It's kind of like the foundation stone of you then being able to live as the fullest expression. And if you think of Maslow's hierarchy, the self-actualization really is up at the top, and the foundational elements, making sure that you've got those in place, are like the building blocks of you then being able to figure out what your purpose is in this life. If we're in struggle and stress and worry and anxiety and ill health, we really are going to be in that survival mode. So that would be one of my key tips, that you might think that figuring out your purpose is the thing that's going to sort all of that out for you. And don't get me wrong, once you know what your purpose is, it's far easier to take really good care of yourself. But it's really important to put whatever you can in place when it comes to taking great care of yourself, in order to give yourself that best chance of self-actualizing, of living as the fullest expression of who you are. And what does it mean for you to live as the fullest expression of who you are? Sometimes this can be one of the trickiest things when it comes to figuring out our life purpose. Is great, okay, you tell me I'm meant to live as the fullest expression of who I am, but who the hell is that? What is that? Because actually, I've spent most of my life being told who I should be, especially as women. If you're a woman listening to this, we're told by society, the media, by so many people who we are meant to be. And that can make it quite tricky to really get in touch with, who actually am I? What am I here to do? Who am I here to be? What does it mean for me to live as the fullest expression of who I am? And the only thing I can say here is that it's an exploration. I wish there was a tick box exercise I could give you that would lead you to find your life purpose. And there are things that can help, but it's an exploration. If I can vouch for anything, having lived the past few years that I have lived, it is that you just got to keep on exploring and exploring and exploring, and feeling what feels right, and trusting it, and following the breadcrumbs, and recognize that there is no path that's going to be laid out before you with instructions and step-by-step guide as to how to get to the end of your life having lived your perfect path of purpose. As Joseph Campbell says, if you can see your path laid out clearly in front of you, it's not your path. Because coming back to what I was talking about at the beginning, there are no extra humans. And equally, there are no humans who have been put here to live the exact same path as somebody else, which is a bit of a bugger, really, isn't it? It would be great if we could just follow somebody else's path that they've trailblazed before us. Don't get me wrong, we can learn from other people's experiences, absolutely. But our path, the components of our path, are going to be really, really different. And that's where we have to get in touch with our feelings and our intuition in order to be able to guide ourselves along that path. And so some of the tools that I have found really useful on my path, I'm going to share them with you now in case they might also be valuable for you. So one of those is the Desire Map by Danielle Laporte. Figuring out what my core desired feelings were, aka my values, was just a revelation for me. Figuring out that I needed to feel excited and lit up by life just really, really helped me to then identify the things that made me feel excited and lit up, and to think, okay, these are clearly a part of my path. And it doesn't mean that the things that are a part of my path are things that are going to make me money, or all of them, or that are going to contribute to society. Ultimately, they're things that bring me joy, because my belief is that I'm here to live the most joyful life possible and bring joy to other people in whatever way I can. And so I have to be joy filled to begin with in order for me to bring joy to other people. A sad sack misery guts person is not going to bring joy to other people. And so it could be a Pilates class that brings me that joy. It could be dancing. It could be horse riding. And very often, especially if we're trying to figure out what our purpose is and to live this meaningful, purposeful life, we can discount those things that are pure play, that are pure pleasure, and think that they're not important. But pleasure and play are a huge part of living a purposeful life. And I will do a future podcast episode on that topic. So think about those things that bring you joy, that light you up, that you just love doing, and don't worry about whether they are contributing to you finding that the work that you believe that you are meant to do here in this lifetime. Just focus on being joyful and being in that high vibration state as much as possible, because that is what is going to lead you to live the most joyful life that you can, and therefore the most purposeful life that you can. So the Desire Map, that's one tool that I would suggest for you to look at and get really clear on what are your core desired feelings. And then some other tools that I have found really, really useful. One of them is astrology. Now, I grew up in a very religious household where astrology was seen as complete woo-woo, dodgy, don't even think about going there kind of stuff. And it was only really because somebody gifted me an astrology session that I started to explore it. And I was really blown away by being able to see a full reading of my entire chart. So I'm not talking about the little paragraphs that you see in newspapers here. I'm talking about working with an astrologer who can give you a full reading of your entire chart. And I was just really, really blown away by how that chart reflected the person that I was when I was younger, and just really gave me permission to say, okay, this is me. I have a huge amount of fire in my chart. I have a Leo sun, Leo moon, Leo this, Leo that, and I also am Sagittarius rising, which is very much about movement, and I need a lot of movement in my life in order to feel good. So this was like, oh, okay, this is making sense to me. And then what I also found in my chart was the way that it was structured and where everything was placed, that I was here to learn and to impart that knowledge to other people. I mean, what an affirmation, a confirmation of the work that I'm here to do. Seeing my chart and realizing that, oh, okay, there's this path that I have found, this path of coaching, which I was doubting, and am I really meant to be doing this? Is this for me? Am I on the right track? It was an affirmation that this is part of your life's work, is to learn from your own life experience and share that learning with other people, which then gave me clues like, okay, I'm meant to really engage with life so that I can learn and so that I can then pass that learning on to other people. So for me, sitting back and not really engaging with life is not what's going to work best for me. I also found out that my challenge in this lifetime is experiencing guilt around pleasure and releasing that. How fascinating that growing up in this religious background, there was always a huge amount of guilt around experiencing pleasure and feeling pleasure. And I'm not just talking about sexual pleasure here, but other types of pleasure. I really had lived much of my adult life believing that I could have fun and I could play and I could enjoy myself when I'd finished doing all the hard work, when I'd achieved what I needed to achieve, and actually feeling really guilty for just enjoying myself and having fun, and looking at other people who were like that and thinking, they're just not working hard enough. And actually, so interesting for me to recognize by having this astrological reading that, oh, this is one of my challenges in this lifetime. Interesting. And that is something else as well that you can look at as regards figuring out your purpose is, I'm just going to digress slightly here. What are your biggest challenges? What are the areas of life that you find most challenging, that have the biggest emotional charge for you? Likelihood is that those challenges are things that you are here to overcome in this lifetime. That they are the things that are going to lead you to living as the fullest expression of who you are. So don't kind of just try and ignore them. They're actually the things to dive into, because they've probably got the greatest gifts for you, and they are probably the things that are going to enable you to live as the fullest expression of who you are and to live on purpose and to live a meaningful life if you can get to grips with them, if you can figure them out. So another tool that I found really useful and I'm still learning about is human design. So you can go and look this up, and I would recommend you look up a lady called Erin Claire Jones. I'm currently awaiting my blueprint from her. I'm really excited to receive that. Hopefully I'll be getting it soon, because it's going to give me so much more information about my own blueprint. But what I do know is that I am a generator. So there are different types in human design: generator, manifesting generator, projector, reflector, etc. So I'm a generator, and one of the key things about a generator is that we are here to feel lit up by whatever is in our lives, and if we're not lit up by it, then we're not operating as our best selves, which is, again, ties in so beautifully with what I was able to find out for myself with just a bit of self-inquiry, that excitement and passion were really important to me. And then I've had these tools, these readings that have enabled me to go, oh yeah, okay, I've got confirmation here. This is how I was designed. And so another thing about generators is that they tend to work best when they use up all of their available energy each and every day, and then flop into bed completely spent. Again, this makes so much sense for me over the past few years because of the stress, etc., that I went through. I've been trying to be more peaceful and rested, and actually that just makes me agitated. And what I really need is to feel energized. And that, again, is why it's so important for me to be operating from a full health, a place of really, really great vitality, because I'm a highly energetic person who needs to use all of her energy. So if I'm not feeling completely vital, then I'm not going to be able to live in a way that serves me and that brings me the most joy. So a couple of tools there that you might find useful. I've also had some quantum hypnosis sessions, so where you go into a hypnotized state, and you're able then to really tap into your higher self. You can get past all of the noise of your conscious and get into the subconscious. So that was really, really helpful for me. And another more simpler and maybe more accessible tool for you is oracle cards. Now, again, growing up in a religious background, oracle cards would have been seen as really woo-woo, like don't even touch them, very dodgy stuff. But I gradually started to get into them. I think Kyle Gray was the very first person who I tapped into, and I started to learn from, and I had his angel card deck. That was my first foray. And what I found with oracle cards, because I can be quite in my head sometimes, was that they enabled me to bypass the logic and the conscious mind and really tap into what was coming through from my higher self and get those messages coming through, as well as things like meditation. Now that I'm more practiced at it and much more in tune with my higher self, meditation also kind of brings me those same benefits and same messages. The trick then is listening to the guidance that comes through, which we don't always do. Yeah, oracle cards, if you've never tried them, I would give them a go. And my favorite deck is Energy Oracle Cards by Sandra Ann Taylor, I think it is. Just such an amazing deck. So get yourself that deck if you can. And yeah, give it a whirl. This is the thing, as I said, it's an exploration. We have to start to open ourselves up to possibilities of things that we're drawn to, that appear in our lives. We have to start following the breadcrumbs, and this is what I very much have done over the past few years, is follow those breadcrumbs. Go to that event that I'm feeling called to go to, even if though I don't really know why. Read that book that keeps popping up over and over again. Okay, maybe there's a reason for that. Work with that coach that keeps appearing. But all the while checking in with how you're feeling, and does this feel like the right next step? Am I doing this out of a place of scarcity and fear and lack and wanting to fix myself, or am I doing this because I really feel like it's going to contribute to my evolution and to me living as the best version of myself? And so I could go on for much longer talking about life purpose and various different things that you can explore. There are so many teachers out there who teach on this, but ultimately, to summarize, I guess, what I would say is that your life purpose is to live as the fullest expression of who you are. And so if we do that, then things will flow. And not to say that we will never have any struggles, any challenges, any difficulties, because we will, because that is part of life. But we will be taken care of. So if you find yourself struggling financially, then that's a clue that you're not in alignment with your true purpose. Because again, I don't believe that any of us were put here to struggle in that way. If your romantic relationships aren't as you would like them to be, well, you're probably not living in alignment with your purpose, with your true self. I've just done a month of dating and I'm about to retire again because I've gathered some information and recognized, okay, this still isn't quite working for me. So I've got some work to do myself on connecting with who I really am, getting really clear on what I really desire from a relationship before I'm going to be able to meet my match. So it's really easy with areas of our lives to feel like, it's external factors that are causing things to not be as we want them to be. It's the government's fault. It's all men's fault. It's society's fault. It's the council's fault. It's whoever's fault except our own, which is just not true. Honestly, we have so much more control and so much power than we give ourselves credit for. And any area of life that isn't working is giving us an opportunity to investigate, why is that not working? Where am I not aligned with my true self? And how can I get myself into alignment with my true self in order to get that area of my life flowing nicely for me? And again, I come back to this Joseph Campbell quote, if you can see your path laid out ahead of you, it's not your path, which is pretty scary sometimes, that we have to figure out what our path is step by step, breadcrumb by breadcrumb. It's a bit of a tongue twister. But then there's also a huge opportunity in that. We get to design our life as we wish it to be. And when it comes to work, I guess I would just close with this, because I know a lot of people thinking about life purpose are really thinking about the work that they do. I do believe there are certain elements of our work that, certain things that each of us are most gifted at. Again, coming back to Gay Hendricks and Zone of Genius, etc. There are certain things that we're most gifted at, and aligning with those is always going to put us in a place of doing work that is most fulfilling for us. But there isn't just one thing. I don't believe that there's one thing in this life that we must do, and if we don't figure that out, then we're going to spend our entire lives completely off track. I just don't believe that. I believe that there are many different paths that we could take, and that our purpose, so for instance, for my purpose to bring joy, well, I could have taken multiple paths in doing that, and there are many different ways in my life that I can bring joy. I can bring it through the work that I do and the business that I create. I can also bring it through how I show up and how I am with people, just being joyful and cheerful and optimistic. Is a way of bringing joy. It doesn't have to manifest through a specific role. And so, maybe your purpose is less here about the work that you do. Maybe the form of the work that you do is less important than who you are being when you're doing the work that you do. And if you feel like the work that you're doing is not allowing you to be who you truly are, and isn't allowing you to live as the fullest expression of who you are, then that's a clue that that's not the work for you. And if you do have a deep desire to do a certain type of work, then follow it. Follow it, because it's a clue, it's a breadcrumb. I can't say that I always had this desire to do what I'm doing now, but I always had a desire to create something, to have my own business, and I was always really excited and lit up to learn things myself and try things out, and then to share that knowledge with people, and then to see them implement it and to see them get results really gave me a buzz. So there are certain connections, there are certain things that make sense for me to be doing the work that I'm doing, but I could equally do it in another format if I so wished. So I sincerely hope that you've got some clues out of that episode as to what it really means to live on purpose and how to find your purpose. You have to look for it. It's not just going to land in your lap. You have to do the exploration. You have to get in touch with who you really are and what you're really here to do in this lifetime, by really getting in touch with who you are, what lights you up, what brings you joy, when are you at your best. And it's when you follow that, when you focus on and prioritize the things that make you feel good, and the things that you love, and the things that you enjoy, and the things that you're most gifted at, that is when you are going to live a purposeful and meaningful life. And that is your purpose here. So apologies if you were looking for something really, really specific, but yeah, I hope equally that this has given you some real food for thought, and perhaps some avenues to explore that you hadn't thought of previously. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments, as always, I would absolutely love to hear from you. But in the meantime, here's to living the most joyful, purposeful, meaningful, passionate, lit up life possible. And I look forward to being back with you again very, very soon for the next episode of the Live on Purpose show.